Throughout video game history, swords have played a major role, whether they are tools of justice or evil. A unique sword dons a visage worthy of their wielder. Here are my top 10 favourite swords in video games. Number 10. Z-Saber, Mega Man X series. The Z-Saber is Zero's main weapon in Mega Man X and Mega Man Zero. When used in attacks, it appears to have a more fluid form than solid, leaving a beautiful trail of energy as it leaves whatever you just put your sword into. Although as a static sword it can appear bland, it truly becomes a sight to see when used in action. Number 9. Energy Sword, the Halo series. The Energy Sword from the Halo series is both one of the cheapest weapons to use online and also one of the most skilled. In the original Halo game, you couldn't use this weapon, only stare in sorrow as it disappeared after killing an enemy elite wielding one. But after Bungie introduced it as a usable weapon in Halo 2, people flipped. Someone new to the game can get 1 or 2 cheap kills with it, but skilled players can carry it the entire match. Number 8. High Frequency Blade from Metal Gear Rising. Raiden's debut into the Metal Gear Solid series was not easy. He was basically designed to not be as cool as the character people really wanted to play as, Solid Snake. But after the second game, the writers dissected his character, and from the Frankenstein mess that came, the new and improved Raiden. A cyborg ninja with a sword that can cut through nearly anything. In his own spin-off title, you find yourself throwing stealth out the window for a more arcadey styled action, slicing up bad guys like they're nothing with lightning fast speed. And it worked. Your main tool for the job is the High Frequency Blade, a sword reinforced by powerful alternating current and resonates at extremely high frequencies. This oscillation weakens the molecular bond of anything it cuts, thereby increasing its cutting ability. If that description doesn't bring out the inner child in you, I don't know what will.
Yo, help me out here. Where's this death metal dude? Bad answer.
Number 7. Beam Katana from No More Heroes. The iconic weapon of Travis Touchdown, this weapon tears through whatever it is that stands in its way. Originally I was going to slap a lightsaber in this slot, but looking more into this weapon, you'll see why I didn't. This weapon not only acts as a sword but can shoot projectiles and seemingly has its own artificial intelligence. The blade itself is made up by a tight loop of highly focused energy which runs from an emitter in the hilt along a retractable frame and into the receiver. Other people in the game have their own beam katana, which vary in shape and style much more than lightsabers do in Star Wars. Notably Orange 2, which dons the visage of a cleaver, and Magic Double Saber, which resembles staffs. Number 6. Master Sword, the Legend of Zelda series. The legend of this sword stretches far beyond the world of Hyrule, as there aren't many people I know in real life that don't know about this sword. This weapon of the gods, the destroyer of evil, is also known as the Blade of Evil's Bane. This sword is often the only sword capable of defeating the evil Ganon. The sword is often seen to choose its master by its own will, always a hero who has gone through great trials that test its courage, wisdom and power, and once both the sword and wielder are in tandem, they carry the power of the gods with them.
I forged the Monado. It is molded from me. All who wield the sword are made known to me.
You made the Monado?
Yes.
Number 5. Minato, Xenoblade Chronicles. The Minato is a mythical sword in the Xenoblade Chronicles. The reason of its existence and powers are the core of the story. The Minato is a powerful energy blade that can manipulate ether around it, and with it change the material and immaterial shape of the world. The use of the Minato depends on the will of its user. Most Hums who try to use the sword cannot control it. Number 4. Holy Order Soul's Concrete Sword from Guilty Gear XX. Most swords on this list are made of some sort of plasma energy or metal that is both strong and light, but this sword defies the standard of badass weapons by being made out of concrete. It is never explained whether it is not made out of the material it is named after, or the skill of the wielder itself, but this sword can cut like a normal sword. Eventually, Soul gets the sword Bullet Heaven, which somehow uses ammunition, despite it not being used as a gun, but there's something admirable about the raw and simple look of Soul's previous weapon, the Concrete Blade, which sets it apart as such a unique piece. Number 3. Buster Sword from the Final Fantasy VII series and Gunblade from Final Fantasy VIII. I put these together as I felt it would be unfair to pick two swords from the same franchise, and it's very hard to pick one above the other as I love them both so equally for their own reasons. Final Fantasy VII and VIII are arguably the most renowned Final Fantasies out there, still carrying a large fandom with them today. From Final Fantasy VII, the Buster Sword is one of the first things that come into most people's minds when you think about oversized, impractical swords. But for the time, that only made this thing cooler. The sword's journey alone carries a story to it more interesting than some games. It was improved when reinvented in the movie made 8 years after the game's release, separating the sword into smaller sword pieces, each used in various and interesting ways, only to be combined at the end in a climactic finish. And now the Gunblade from Final Fantasy VIII. They say don't bring a knife to a gunfight, but what about a knife to a sword fight? You're still gonna have an advantage. Now let's say this sword is also a gun. With that logic, this sword is one of the best things to carry into battle. Number 2. Jazz's Broadsword, Eternal Sonata. Eternal Sonata is a game which flew over the heads of most people outside Japan. You're basically playing a JRPG themed fever dream during the last few days of the life of Frederick Francisco Chopin as he's dying from tuberculosis. As you can tell, it's a bit of a niche game, but when I played it, I actually found it very refreshing. It really portrays Chopin's passion for music by making everything from names such as jazz and polka to the setting all themed on music. This is something that could have been done wrong in so many ways, such as making it into an Adam West Batman cheese fest filled with puns. But this game actually held its integrity by telling an interesting tale. Bearing all this in mind, it's hard to think how to make a weapon music related without making it a visual pun in itself. But Eternal Sonata gets another cool point from me by designing this, Jazz's Broadsword. Although it inherently doesn't have a set name that we can address it as, its design alone is enough to be admired. Number 1. Cypher, Strider series. The year is 2048. The world is ruled by a mysterious, intergalactic being known as Grandmaster Male, who holds control of all technology and military on Earth, and has created his personal base on an artificial satellite known as the Third Moon. Meanwhile, the oppressive regime of the Kazakh administration, themselves servant to Mayo, has led to the creation of rebel forces who clash with government troops in conflict all over the world. Eventually, these rebel forces sought out services of a group known as the Striders, who were experts in espionage and assassination. The Striders rank their members using a letter-based ranking system which goes from A to C, with a special elite class known as Special A, Hiru being among the top-ranking assassins. Only members of Special A rank are given a Cypher. Cyphers are highly advanced melee weapons. It looks mostly like a broadsword in shape and size, but its hilt is similar to a tonfa. The weapon makes use of plasma energy, releasing it from an opening located on the tip of the edge, in order to greatly enhance its cutting power. Because of the speed at which the blade travels, it gives off a satisfying high-pitched sound whenever it's swung. Not only can this thing cause second-degree burns simply by contact, but the Cypher also can emit plasma through the use of a small, warhead-typed cartridge. The amount of energy emitted is controlled according to how much pressure is applied on the grip. So, there you have it, my top 10 favourite swords in video games. There are so many out there though that I know I must have missed that's one of your favourites, so let me know in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching and goodbye.